Hello, everybody. My name is Josiah Boyd, and I'm here to talk to you today about why we need to make the switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources in our everyday lives. So let's dive in. We need to make the switch from fossil fuels to renewable energy not only to ensure a bright future for our children, but also create jobs and keep costs down on energy. So before we dive into renewable energy, let's take a look at the competitor, which is the current standard, fossil fuels. So what are fossil fuels? Fossil fuels are a non-renewable energy source that comes from the remains of prehistoric plants and animals that were buried under layers of rock and transformed over millions of years. Examples of fossil fuels include oil, natural gas, coal. This is a concept that many of us are going to be very familiar with, especially living in Boomtown. We live in Beaumont. This place it used to be a hub. It still is a hub for oil and natural gas production. And this is something that many people that grew up in the area have come to expect and have just come to accept as part of their life. So, fossil fuels currently make up 80% of the world's total energy production, and that's a very, very high number for us to be relying on a fuel source that has a finite amount. There is not an unlimited amount of these natural resources, and we are not doing a very good job of taking care and really using our conscious effort to make sure that we don't run out. As I said before, growing up in Beaumont, all of us are very familiar with the refinery and the oil production that comes from this area, but a lot of people didn't know that currently the Gulf Coast region of Texas houses 8 out of 10 of the largest oil refineries in the U.S., according to the Department of Energy. All right, so now that we've dived into what fossil fuels are, let's talk about what the harms of burning and interacting with fossil fuels are on a daily basis. Fossil fuels do untold harm to not only the people that work with them, but the millions of innocent people relying on fossil fuels for their energy. According to the Harvard School of Public Health, producing and burning fossil fuels creates air pollution that harms our health and generates toxic emissions that help to drive climate change. The physical risks of being exposed to fossil fuels include early death, heart attack, respiratory disorders, stroke, asthma, absenteeism at school and work. It has also been linked to autism and spectrum disorders as well as Alzheimer's disease. As I said, I grew up in this area. I know a lot of the people that listening to this speech did as well, and it's just truly heartbreaking to think that a lot of our parents, a lot of people in our lives may succumb to some of these physical risks of being exposed to fossil fuels just because of where we live. And a lot of people around this area also work in these plants, and that's really the best way that they can make a living. And so it's honestly just really heartbreaking to see that they are putting themselves in this much danger just to produce energy and just to go to work. But now that I've dived into what fossil fuels are and what the harms of burning and interacting with them are, let's dive into the better option, the renewable option. So what is renewable energy? Renewable energy is energy derived from natural sources that are replenished at a higher rate than they are consumed. Examples of renewable energy include solar energy, which we have a couple of pictures of some solar wind farms. And we have some wind energy, wave energy, geothermal energy, hydropower, and bioenergy. Currently, about 29% of the world's electricity is coming from renewable energy, but many experts believe that we could get this number up exponentially by 2030. Renewable energy is constantly expanding with new forms and ways of harnessing natural resources being discovered every day. So, talking a little bit more about these new forms of energy, I actually saw an article talking about how China has been revolutionizing a miniature sun that they're trying to get and be able to develop into a way of renewable energy. So there's always some kind of technological advancement just on the horizon when it comes to renewable energy. And I think that is one of the reasons that we really need to dive in and focus more on this. Why should we go renewable? Well, renewable energy sources such as wind and solar emit little to no greenhouse gases, are readily available, and in most cases, they're cheaper than coal, oil, and gas already. Renewable energy is all around us and is never going to go away, unlike fossil fuels, which have a finite amount. Renewable energy expansion will create jobs instead of diminish them, like the oil field has done. we're about to dive into how the distribution and extraction of fossil fuels has actually seen a decrease in the amount of people used in the labor force. So let's dive into that. So, renewable jobs. Fossil fuel extraction has become more mechanicalized over the past 35 years, meaning there are actually less jobs in the fossil fuel field than in the past. And with technological advancements, it won't be long until this number increases again and we see more and more people laid off work. The coal mining industry, for example, which was one of the biggest forms of energy in the US for most of the 19th and 20th century, has seen drastic cuts in the labor force over the past 30 years. We have seen a workforce cut by 58% in the last 30 years, and that is just exponential. Clean energy already supplies over 50% of the world's energy jobs, with new sectors opening and being made every single day. So while these jobs are starting to diminish and starting to dry up within the fossil fuel industry, there are new and exciting jobs in renewable energy that already make up 50% of the world's current energy jobs in the sector. So it's nice to see that while one form of energy that causes much more harm and much more pollution is starting to die out, there is still hope and there is an upward trajectory for jobs in the renewable energy field. A lot of people say, well, it's great, renewable energy is awesome to think about, but it's not sustainable. And that simply couldn't be further from the truth. Currently, around 6 billion people are reliant on other countries to provide them with oil, even though the tools to produce their own renewable energy are all around them. There is no country on this earth that does not get sunlight, does not have water, and does not have wind. So it's honestly, we're saying that oil and gas, they're more reliant, but with so many people needing someone else to distribute that oil and gas, how could that be more reliant than something that's readily available and never going to end? Renewable energy costs have been declining rapidly over the past 10 years also, with solar energy costs dropping nearly 85% from 2010 to 2020. And that's just an astonishing number. Renewable energy is the most reliable form of energy because it is both domestic and never-ending, as I had said. So these arguments about renewable energy not being sustainable, it's not as dependable as oil and natural gas, that couldn't be farther from the truth. You can't say that you don't have something when it's all around you. You can't bring a horse to water, well, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's pretty much the argument that people are making when it says that it's not sustainable, because it's all around you and it's never going to end. How more sustainable could that get? Another aspect that switching from fossil fuels to renewable energy will have is a positive impact on the environment. This is something that we hear all the time when these discussions get brought up, and it's something that I feel a lot of people don't take enough time to really grasp. According to the World Health Organization, about 99% of the people in the world breathe air that exceeds air quality limits and threatens their health. And more than 13 million deaths around the world each year due to avoidable environmental causes, including air pollution. Renewable energy emits little to no greenhouse gases or harmful compounds that would negatively affect health or the environment. The burning of fossil fuels is the number one contributor for global warming, and we are seeing the effects of global warming everywhere. We have had massive storms in regions that are not known to have them. It's just the effects of climate change are all around us. Over 400,000 deaths were attributed to climate change-related diseases and famines this past year. And the total is only going to continue to rise if we don't take action. The science is clear. To avoid the worst impacts of climate change, emissions need to be reduced by almost half by 2030 and reach net zero by 2050. This is where I ask you to really dig into your hearts and really think about what's important. It's not only about us. If we don't take action, future generations will not have a world to call home. We only have one planet. There is no Earth 2. We can't go anywhere. This is our home. We are tasked with taking care of it, and this is the best way to do so. Not only is it better for the environment, but it's better for the health of the people living on this earth. If we could drastically cut down on carbon emissions, we would be saving millions, if not billions, of people. So please get in contact with your representatives, your local business owners, local lawmakers, and just plead them to think green when deciding on their energy. Thank you so much for listening to my speech, and I hope that you think green.